Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the fusion plan, right, with our Fragment event calendar for Packmaster Shy'ek to show you which events to target, when to spend your energy, which days to watch out for, etc. Everything you need to know, basically, about completing this Fragment fusion. A little bit late getting today's video out because I was trying out the new Hoyoverse game, right? The guys that made Genshin and Star Rail, Honkai Star Rail, their new game is Endless Zone Zero came out today, so I've been playing that. I'm going to do a first impression video on that game on my second channel, which is my Honkai Star Rail, and now I guess any Hoyo game channel. That's linked in the description down below. If you're interested, it is there. If you don't care about those sorts of games, then, well, sorry for mentioning it. But in terms of Packmaster Shy'ek, guys, here we go. If we come over here, this was initial ranking. I asked you guys yesterday what your initial ranking of the fusion was. So most people feel like he's a B tier fusion. Honestly, I do mostly agree with that. I'd be like, B plus. Yeah, probably around a B plus, maybe A minus right now. I am still very intrigued as to his combo with the hounds. And I will say, you can watch my fusion showcase. My consideration, especially if you're someone with a lot of resources, I know a lot of you guys are more later game players. Most of you have been playing for a decent chunk of time. Something that is worth considering, where I think he's like B plus maybe right now, maybe A minus. I do think if there's a really OP hound that comes out that can combo with him, which is possible, I think he could easily become like A plus. If the hound is crazy OP, like the passive and constantly counterattacking, maybe even like he could become like A plus S minus or something. Like he could genuinely become really good. So that's something to consider. By the way, if you want to see my other channel, it's pause that. It's over here. There we go. Nub Star Rail. That's the other channel. This was my original channel from back in the day, by the way, which has been thoroughly abandoned. Also, shout out to the members. But yeah, right. Let's take a look at this. There is some spicy stuff happening in this one. So certainly compared to our previous one, I think that this is more simple, more straightforward. Like I said, some very spicy things going on. One of the first things to look at, 130 available fragments. Now, you might as well forget about this tournament leaderboard. Forget about it. So it's not really 130. It's really 110 fragments, which means you can skip 10 potential fragments, and that is it. And I will say the important, often the number one things to skip would be the summoning events, but there's 15 for Summon Rush and 15 for Champion Chase, so you cannot fully skip either of those. And in fact, if you want extra fragments from winning tournaments, it's only the Champion Chase. That's a big whale fest, credit card fest, watch out. Champion Training, you could maybe win that one, but that's rough. So, I mean, let's really just expect not to win anything. But you need to max out one of the summoning events, either Summon Rush or Champion Chase. You must max out one of them. And yeah, you must get at least 5 fragments from another one. If you do both of them, well, then you're free to skip 10 fragments elsewhere. So you could skip, for example, Dungeon Divers. That's a pretty classic one. Or potentially even skipping 2 Dungeon Divers to make life number 1 easy. Yeah, mostly just easier and less hassle. Of course, you might be more limited by your shards than your energy. That's usually the case when you're definitely earlier game. So that's something to consider. In fact, let me mark these right now. So we've got our Champion Chase tournament. We're going to be talking about this. Summon Rush is very, very, very spicy. It's actually started already. We're going to talk about that in a second. Very much so. But this should be probably 2x Sacreds. It should be Sacreds, guys. So that's probably one of the tougher ways to arrange this is 2x Sacreds, because Sacreds give you a lot of points for Summon Rush, but you might want to be saving your Sacreds for the 2x event instead, right? So you get that higher chance of a legendary. It's something to consider. But yeah, right. Let's look at this. Let's look at this Summon Rush first, because this is already in game. And it is, like I said, spicy, spicy. It is up 1 day early. Usually the Summon Rush events only begin on Friday. This one is started on Thursday, a day early. It's up for 4 days. You get double points from Ancient Shards for this one. And if we come down here, we can see 5 fragments at 2,350, another 10 fragments at 3,200. And honestly, guys, with a 6-star glyph in between, I feel like, unless you're really, really, really strapped for shards, especially considering Ancients are getting a boost. I would highly recommend going that little bit further and getting these 10 fragments and then potentially skipping Champion Chase, especially if it's 2x Sacreds. Then that might change, but assuming it is, skipping 10 fragments from Champion Chase, that might be, I think that's probably a better idea, looking at this immediately right now. Let's break this down. We're going to look at the guaranteed in a second, but in terms of the shard cost, right, for 2,350, you're looking at 58.8 Ancients, 19.6 Voids, 11.8 Primals, or 4.7 Sacreds. For the 3,200 points, it's 80 Ancients, 26.7 Voids, 16 Primals, and 6.4 Sacred Shards. So that's roughly what you are looking at there. It is a summon rush, so actually it's not roughly, it's pretty much exactly what you're looking at. You know, it's not going to vary, whereas Champion Chase, it will vary depending on the quality of the champion that you get. Now, why I say this is extra spicy, we do have a guaranteed champion on right now. This is up for 5 days as well. 150 Ancient Shards for Shemnath. I would not say that Shemnath is a particularly exciting... We did a video on this yesterday. I was kind of huffing the copium on wanting to summon for Shemnath. Sense got a better hold of me, and I think it's a bad idea. But then I saw the summon rush today, and suddenly this is looking like a potentially decent idea once again. Because of this summon rush event. So I see a red dot here. Okay, nothing too exciting. So this is the thing that's maybe worth considering. So 150 Ancients with the double points for Ancients from the Summon Rush gives you 6,000 points. So if you go for the guaranteed Shemnath, you more than get this, and you're going to get a big chunk of energy, a barrel, 5 Essence, a rank 5 chicken, a legendary skill tome. And this is what's juicy to me, is sitting at 6,000 points, if you go another 850, so if I go like basically, what, 1 Sacred Shard and a couple of Void Shards beyond that, the guaranteed, and get another legendary skill tome and a mythical skill tome. So for a later game player, I actually think this becomes quite a juicy deal, right? You get your guaranteed Shemnath, not very exciting, but hey, you can get the guaranteed Shemnath. It completes this part of the fusion, so you would have had to do, if you're going for the fusion, the 3,200 points anyway, so it's not that much more, and then you can be close to an extra legendary mythical skill tome. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going to do. Now for me, it's going to take some time. I'll probably try get that video out tomorrow. As you can see, my champion storage is almost full. Now, one thing we have going on is champion training is on at the same time. So that makes it a good time as well to pull lots of ancient shards, get lots of food champions, level them up, feed them into each other, and complete champion training nice and easy. For grinding campaign, I will say it's going to be much better to do that tomorrow. In fact, there's not too much. A little bit of light champion training today makes sense, but you should really focus it in on tomorrow. I recommend watching my Zenless Zone 0 first impressions on my second channel today, probably. But anyway, let's look at this. So, as I was saying, over then in terms of our energy, so we've broken down the Summon Rush cost. Let's come over here. So we do have Ice Golem is on today. Now, Ice Golem, very low priority today. Really, Dungeon Divers. That's a big one over here. So Ice Golem becomes really good to do, I would say, over those couple of days. And then hopefully you've got it finished and you can move on. Fire Knight Tournament will actually overlap as well with this Dungeon Divers slightly. So you can be good there. And then there's quite a break. Well, for a couple of days, for 1 day between Monday and Tuesday, there's nothing on. Now, Tuesday, Dungeon Divers 2 starts. So there we go. So Fire Knight then becomes super valuable again during Dungeon Divers 2. What I would be thinking with my energy is this champion training event. I'll dip into it right now, but really that becomes again very high value, really at any point during this Dungeon Divers. So that is my goal. Maybe do a light bit of champion training today with my daily energy, but it's not a huge deal. But really tomorrow on Friday, when Dungeon Divers starts, it's try blitz to Ice Golem tournament, get it done, and then really try to rip through champion training, especially if you're doing Summon Rush. I'm going to be summoning lots of characters to free up your space, double dip in that. Fire Knight, I'm actually not too worried about with Dungeon Divers 1. But I can use it to finish off Dungeon Divers 1 if needed. I think Dungeon Divers 1 looks like a pretty good event, honestly, to complete. Dungeon Divers 2 is a bit more awkward. Now, it does overlap with Dragon Tournament, That's nice. And then we've got a little bit of a gap right there with Dragon. And again, Dragon then comes into Dungeon Divers 3. I'd be more inclined to skip these other Dungeon Divers, especially if you're going hard for this champion training. So honestly, Dragon is like good to complete towards the end. Spider, you want to complete it quickly. And Spider's probably going to be pretty good at this point, actually, because we should have CVC over here. But this should not be personal rewards. We've had personal rewards 2 times in a row. So this Clan v Clan over here is likely going to be non-personal rewards. You could summon him for fragments for CVC points. It's actually pretty low value. So I think Packmaster Shy'ek, unless some twist comes, you're probably going to be waiting a while to summon him for maximum efficiency. Would be my thoughts. You could, in theory, actually finish him during Champion Chase tournament for extra Champion Chase points. Maybe push yourself up to a legendary book. That could be valuable. Might be something to consider. But yeah, I'd probably be looking towards Dungeon Divers 2. Looks like kind of a bit of a pain in the butt. Same with Dungeon Divers 3. Like, they might be the ones I'm more likely to skip. I think Dungeon Divers 1, with this big champ training event, Ice Golem and Fire Knight overlapping, Dungeon Divers 1's probably fine, honestly, to do. This other champion training tournament, then, I would say this becomes very high. Oops, wrong color. In fact, let me put the champion trainings in purple. Let's make them a little bit different. This champion training event is pretty much good to do at all points. This one is really good to do here. And then, you know, maybe falls off a bit. During Dragon, you might want to focus on Dragon instead. And yeah, then again, I think it becomes really good to finish off before it ends, basically. But that's roughly what I'd be thinking. And in fact, let's come over here and let's put in a few dots right there. So let's say Ice Golem comes up. Let's get Ice Golem done nice and quick. So there we go. That's sort of what I'm thinking with energy. Today, light bit of champ training. Focus on Ice Golem with Dungeon Divers. Focus on champ training. When that's done, you can start working on your Fire Knight. You can sort of take a bit of a day off, honestly. On Monday is pretty low priority. Things are just finishing on Monday. Monday's sort of a chill day. Probably a big news day. There's often news on the Monday. Especially because I think, let's actually put this in. On the 10th should be Clan Siege. Just put in Siege. New mode should be coming here. So Monday is probably just enjoy the news, but chill in game. Tuesday is get back on the grind for Fire Knight with Dungeon Divers, and then moving into champ training as well, and then drag. Okay, so I think that sort of establishes where we're going with that. Some easier bits then, because we've covered really the hard stuff. So Classic Arena, simple, just get it done whenever. That should be very easy. And then we've got 3 artifact enhancements. Again, these might be good ones to skip. These might be good ones to skip. So let me see. If I want to skip 10 fragments... Honestly, these 2 events right here might be good ones to skip, potentially. Dungeon Divers 2 and Artifact Enhancement 2. Or maybe even Dungeon Divers 3. Yeah, maybe Artifact Enhancement 2 and Dungeon Divers 3. Yeah, we'll have to see. I think Dungeon Divers 2 can overlap with at least a day. Like, you've got Tuesday for Fire Knight and Dungeon Divers 2. Dungeon Divers 2, then you've got Dragon overlapping as well. It's not bad. I would say, first, if I was going to skip, I would say I would skip Dungeon Divers 3, which just overlaps with the end of Dragon and the Stars Spy and some champ training. I'd probably skip that one. Yeah, I'd probably skip that one because you can be farming Spider for good value. You can do Spider actually during CVC for some points. And I'd probably skip Artifact Enhancement 2. Those would be my thoughts. Let me know. Which ones are you planning to skip? Let us know in the comments down below. Yeah, because Champion Chase tournament, that's one potentially to skip either. I think, or you could skip 10 points in Champion Chase. Now, Champion Chase tends to not be too bad. That's sort of up to you. I'd say these would be the ones that I'd be looking at. Yeah, these would be the ones I'd be looking at. That would be my thoughts on that. So there you go. I think this one looks, it's a little complicated. It looked a little simple. I think it's a little complicated. Definitely the wrench in the plans could be what you want to do for this Summon Rush. Again, watch out. This Summon Rush is actually pretty good. I am expecting it to be a tournament. This Summon Rush is actually pretty good for Ancients. So you could pull Ancients here anyway. Normally, they're really bad for Summon Rush. They're still not amazing for Summon Rush. But if you're going for the guaranteed, it actually works out quite well. If you're not going for the guaranteed, which I know a good chunk of you probably still won't, just be careful summoning your Sacreds, because you probably want to have a decent chunk of Sacreds for the Champion Chase. You can also do Champion Chase things like have Fragment Champions. You can do do a bunch of Broadmaw fusions, you know? You can do stuff like that to help with Champion Chase as well, which makes it a bit easier. So you might want to consider that. I do think the 2x Sacreds is probably the worst champion chase. So that's something to watch out for. So it's sort of it's an interesting difficulty fusion. There's also definitely a possibility, very real possibility, that there could be, some sort of hero's path or something alongside the launch of Siege. There could be something, right? Because we are very much speculate. Like, Siege is probably when there's going to be another big patch with new champions, right? We got to have the new champion for the Siege reward, Lamassu. We looked at Thoratrix, Lamassu, or Lamassu. I don't know how to say it. We looked at that recently. There could be a new Hound in that patch, but that's like halfway. You're not going to know about it. It might be there. I could easily see some sort of Hero's Path or launch event alongside Siege. Alternatively, there could be some events after this fusion in between. It could be like, well, Siege is exciting enough, but let's put in like a Titan event or Hero's Paths or Decks of Fate, all the typical stuff that comes between fusions. There could be something like that, bringing potentially a soul for Packmaster Shy'ek, which would be pretty decent for him. There could potentially be, again, a Hound tied into that as well. Like, that could be spicy. They could easily do a big Titan event for his soul and then have a really difficult Hero's Path with like summoning involved and like champion training. They tend to be some of their favorite worst ones to do. Or Dungeon Divers, maybe. They could have that for like a new Hound guaranteed as well. Like, I could totally see that happening, especially with 2x Sacreds and a Summon Rush. I could easily see them doing like 20, where they've 20 Sacred guaranteed, basically, for a Hound that's tying in with a soul and stuff in this sort of latter half of July. These are all things to watch out for. Those are my thoughts on it, guys. Let me know what you think about this. Are you going for it? Yeah, I will be probably doing I think I will. My thoughts, I think, going to go for guaranteed Shemnath. I don't have them. I think this actually works out relatively well. I am very much on the hunt for mythical skill tomes. I've got 8 right now. I mean, I've not maxed out Fralny's second form. That would be a luxury, but I do want to build these up, especially for Mikage. So, like, for me, mythical tomes are super, super valuable. So I'm like, yeah, okay, you know what? I have the shards. This will let me continue to save Sacreds and Voids, so I'll have a really good stockpile of those. I'm going to have to eat into my gems a decent chunk, but yeah, I think I probably will go for this just because they're a new character. Just get them, complete the Champion Chase doing that, complete the Summon Rush by doing that, and get myself a Mythical Tome as well. I think that's what I'll do. So there you go. That's my plans. Let me know what you're doing, and thanks for watching. I'll see y'all next time. Goodbye.